It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. I'm feeling good. I'm still. I don't know if upset is the right word. I'm the whole darkness as we're recording this podcast thing.
Dude.
That it's less than fun. It's less than fun.
Sunday dinner yesterday, smash burgers. The family wanted smash burgers. I'm out there grilling at like 6:15 and it's like pitch black. I got my phone like rigged up to my upper deck so I can have some light shining down on them. I'm not a fan. I don't mind cold weather, but like this is the part of it that I don't like this time of year.
I love the cold. I love the weather. I mean, it's too warm to be honest.
Yeah.
But I know the darkness. Why do we fall back? Just stay where we were. The clock was good. We did not have to move it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Alan, we didn't take a bye week, but the Steelers did. We're back, though. It's a game week as we prepare for the Washington Commanders. And actually, a lot of this episode is going to be about, some updates on some injuries, guys returning back to practice, also some comments about the Commanders, their quarterback, Jayden Daniels. But I want to start with Dylan Cook returning to the team on the practice squad after being waived last week, a move that we didn't understand. To be quite frank with you, didn't really feel like that was a position where they had supreme depth. He seems like a talented player who was on the uptick. I feel like the arrow was pointing up for him as a player and as a prospect. So we didn't really understand it, but it's nice to see that they were able to at least get him back in the fold and get him back on the practice squad. But so a new week has started. Any clarity there in terms of what the reason was behind that? Or, now he's being brought back, so they obviously like him enough to keep him in the fold, but just seems like an odd move.
Still seems odd to me. Dylan said he was taken by surprise, by the move. And, I was surprised twice. I was surprised they cut him, and I was surprised he cleared waivers. Clearing waivers is a very random process where you just need, a team to have the right need the right day. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, kind of thing. And it was it's not a good feeling for the player, I saw Dylan talking to Braden Fehoko today, who's a vet who's been through this process a bunch, and hopefully leaning on him a little bit because you could tell I was pretty disappointed talking to him that the team cut him and that he felt like he had similar to the way we felt that he was someone that they liked and thought highly of, and maybe they still do, but they certainly made an aggressive roster move, and for now it's paid off because they still have Dylan Cook and they have the roster spot, which right now remains open. They haven't done anything with, so we'll see where they go with it from there.
Just another chip, I guess, to stack on the shoulder of Dylan Cook maybe here as he tries to carve out an NFL role for himself. Certainly interesting there. While we're on the discussion of offensive line, Zach Frazier back in the mix. He posted the video of him working next to Isaac Seumalo, which means he's working with the ones, which, it's only it's early in the week here, but that looks pretty good in terms of his availability for next week.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Zach Frazier play this week. I don't have very many questions about it at this point. I haven't talked to Zach, but he was out there. He looked good. You can see the video of him working with Isaac, and I think that speaks for itself pretty much. I mean, they don't have an injury report today. I don't know if he would have been characterized as full or limited, but I think that Zach Frazier is going to play.
Which is obviously big news. I mean, a cap tip to Ryan McCollum in the way that he was able to fill in, but the type of year that Zach Frazier's had, especially for a rookie, has been fantastic in terms of what he's put on display. So certainly excited to get him back in the fold, but I feel like it's worth mentioning Ryan McCollum deserves a cap tip for the work that he put in without Zach Frazier as well. What about switching sides of the ball here, the availability of Nick Herbig? Again, just early in the week, but he's another name that was kind of thrown out there for guys that they could be getting back following the bye week. Any idea in terms of the direction he's headed?
So he was at practice today, was out there. He did stretching and kind of talking with the coaches, but wasn't participating in individual drills. But I talked to Nick after practice. He said he thinks there's a chance he could play this week. He's going to give it a shot, see how things go in practice. The rest of the week can go from there. So, I would say right now looking like maybe questionable to play, but that there's a chance. And he seems like he's progressing nicely. Hamstrings are always tricky. You can't overdo it.
Sure.
But I think there's a real chance that Nick Herbig plays as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's even like, again, hamstrings are tricky, so it's hard to say, but like his felt like one that was like more significant. Like when you saw the way that he was walking and stuff following that, and just didn't look good. Any other news in terms of the injury updates from that group of players that we're talking about, whether it's like Cordero Patterson's in that mix as well, or any of the injured players we're still waiting on? Corey Trice, I think somebody had asked about as well. And any other injuries, guys, that they might be getting back?
Tyler Matakevich has to come off IR by game day, so I would assume that roster spot that they have open is ticketed for him.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. But the other two, anything in
Corey
terms of
Trice, I mean, I heard Mike Tomlin talking to him today. I think he's not that far off, but has not
Okay.
gotten back to practice yet that I saw.
Okay. All right. There's somebody that we know is going to come back, not from the injury, but obviously was suspended. Cam Sutton will be back in the fold for this team, which I feel like just because it was 8 games, some people kind of like even forgot, especially with the last couple of weeks of Beanie Bishop's been giving them. But Cam Sutton will certainly be a welcome addition to this football team, and what he brings obviously can play multiple spots, wore multiple hats here for this defense when he was here in the past. Things didn't go so great in Detroit, but he's back in a familiar place in a spot where he understands obviously the terminology, understands the defense. She'll be able to just jump right back into things.
Yeah, man, I think people are really underrating how good of a cornerback, or understating how good of a cornerback. Geez, Cam Sutton is. He's a really good player. And I certainly understand those who are feeling a certain type of way about the way he was acquired after being cut by the Lions when he was wanted for domestic violence charges. But he's a really good player. And there's no question he's going to make a big difference in the Steelers defense. Talked a lot about that this morning on the Morning Rush, and just in general about how I think the defense is going to look different in the second half. So check that out. 2 videos up here on the YouTube channel. But yeah, I think there's I think he can add a lot. I'm not sure how much it's going to be right away. It seems like they're kind of bringing him along slowly. So may not have a huge impact like week 1 here.
So I guess from that standpoint as well, but the question that I was going to ask was, does the last couple of weeks, what Beanie Bishop's done also maybe change that a little bit? Or like, because I think following the Dallas game, everybody was like, okay, like really counting the minutes until we get Cam Sutton back. And then, Beanie Bishop has nice back-to-back games, and it's like, okay, maybe that eases the burden a little bit of not having Cam Sutton back in the fold. So, could the way that Beanie Bishop has looked over the last couple of weeks maybe change that playing time as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think Beanie's done enough to keep some kind of role. I don't remember. Sutton and Mike Hilton shared that job for years. So it's not like it has to be one person. I absolutely think we're going to continue to see Beanie Bishop out there. And the question will just be what the mix is like on a game-to-game basis. And as I talked about this morning, a lot of that is matchup based. Is it Juju? Okay, I probably don't want a lot of Beanie. Is it some tiny shifty guy? Well, then great. As much Beanie as possible. And vice versa.
So that'll be interesting to see how they match up from that standpoint. Speaking of matching up, you looked at the quarterback that the Steelers are about to face this week in Jayden Daniels, and he's had a heck of a rookie season. Obviously, he poses a threat that few do in this league. Lamar Jackson, in terms of how they've had to prepare for him in the past, in terms of Jayden's ability to also use his legs. You said Patrick Queen spoke about the challenges that kind of a quarterback like he, or that fits that mold, could present. What was that conversation like? And just from your standpoint as well, what have you seen from Jayden Daniels?
Yeah, Jayden Daniels is really good. I don't think anybody needs my endorsement. He's an interesting guy. He kind of has some elements of like the Lamar Jackson to his game, obviously, and his ability to run and scramble, but it's very different. It's not like this guy that wants to run a ton. It's a guy who wants to scramble around to throw it. And but I asked James Pierre, who played with the Commanders this summer, like, who does he remind you of? He goes, Lamar Jackson, except he's just going to throw it and like with reckless abandon. And Pierre was like, that guy has so much confidence in his ability to make every play. He's like, probably too much. And so I think that's where the Steelers are. Talk to Patrick Queen about how, that kind of player really stresses the defense. You got to hold coverage forever. The linebackers have to be able to tackle really well. If you miss a tackle on him, it's probably a big play. And so there's a healthy amount of respect from the Steelers. Like, it kind of always fall into the it's Mike Tomlin against a rookie quarterback trope. And it's like, I'm not getting that level of confidence from the guys in black and gold. Like they're treating this like this is a significant opponent this week.
I think rightfully so. They should. I think that's the right approach to take. I guess for me, the next part of that is all they have is the tape, obviously, which obviously would give you answers and stuff like that. But until you see it in person firsthand, there's probably a different level that's going to take place there. So it's good to me, in my opinion, that they already have that respect for him. But I'm also curious what that approach is or what changes once you actually see a guy live. So, as somebody, as a team as a whole that really haven't seen that, other than, maybe the rookie class or guys that are very early in their careers that saw Jayden in college, like they haven't seen this player yet. Did anybody, whether it was Patrick, James, anybody maybe speak to that? Just like seeing a guy live for the first time as opposed to just seeing him on tape?
Well, Pierre's seen him, of course, live.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But he's kind of the only one, right? So I do think there is a level of unknown with this Washington offense in general. New coaching staff, new quarterback, kind of like a lot new going on. Also, just the team the Steelers aren't very familiar with in terms of personnel. I mean, you look up and down the depth chart, and it's a lot of guys the Steelers either haven't seen or haven't seen very much of. Like, they haven't seen very much. I don't think they've seen Terry McLaurin at all. They haven't seen Luke McCaffrey because he's a rookie. They haven't. I don't think they've seen Brian Robinson. They haven't seen Austin Eckler in a while. And so it's like a group of, Zach Ertz, I think one game maybe, which
is crazy considering how old he is, but
it's not a group that they have a ton of familiarity with. And so I think it's a week where it's good to have the extra practice. It's good to have the bye week because there's like a lot of catching up to do for the Steelers when it comes to this Washington team.
Even from a coaching staff perspective, right? I mean, Cliff Kingsbury is a guy that's been like on the West Coast when he's been in the NFL or in college. It was also like on the West Coast. Dan Quinn, Atlanta, Dallas.
It didn't go very well, but they played him last year.
Yeah. Dan Quinn, even their head coach, Atlanta, Dallas, Seattle, like it was always been in the NFC that he's been. So, man, like now that you're saying that, I go up and down and I'm like, where is the real level of familiarity there? So that'll certainly be interesting to see play out. Alan, could there be a player on the roster by that point that is not currently? Tomorrow is the NFL trade deadline. A lot of people have talked about this. Based off our history of recording, I'm guessing that there's going to be a move made about 30 to 40 minutes once we're done recording. But we'll see if that holds true. Anyway,
4 o'clock, so we'll be done by the time we're back here tomorrow.
No, I'm saying today. Once we're done with this podcast today, they're going to
end up 6:30 tonight. Yeah, probably. I think there will be some kind of move. I think Omar will do something. I'm not expecting it to be something major just because I don't see anything major to be made on the market. I know there's been talk about other positions. To me, the focus is mostly on wide receiver. I don't really see a lot of other places where the Steelers have a lot of needs, to be perfectly honest. I think it's a pretty well-rounded roster. Where they are weak with young players they like. And so I think that is like, you could call guard a weakness, but do they really want to take Mason McCormick back out of the roster? Like, I don't think so. You could call a center a weakness because Frazier's been banged up, but like that's their guy for the next 10 years, they hope. I don't really see another place where this team should be looking to add. And when it comes to wide receiver, I think it has like two molds, right? You either have someone who is very clearly at least the second best wide receiver on the team, someone like a Cortland Sutton, Darius Slayton, who comes in as like, yes, this is wide receiver 2. Or you just find another guy who you could rotate in with Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin that provides more of that injury backup to George Pickens style of mold, like Mike Williams would, or someone else who's a bigger bodied receiver than the ones they have behind Pickens right now. Those to me are the two areas they should be looking for. I know there's other names out there like Adam Thielen that don't fit either of those, and I don't really think they should be very interested in them, but we'll see where the day leads us. But I do believe that there will be some kind of move during the trade deadline on Tuesday.
You always have a way of like answering the question before I ask it, because I was going to ask if you have a sense now as we sit here as to if something is going to be done, because I agree. Like, I think something is going to happen in terms of to what level. I think that's maybe where my mind has shifted. That move just doesn't seem to be out there. Like, best case scenario to me is probably Darius Slayton at this point. Like, and I don't even know if that's on the table. Like, Jacoby Myers, I think, has been talked about just by us. Like, I don't think that he's even necessarily being shopped by the Raiders. If he is, that really hasn't really come to the surface. Cortland Sutton, I mean, the Broncos are in a playoff spot right now. I guess we'll see. DK Metcalf was just a dream created by Steelers fans that's not actually out there. Mike Williams, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about that. Alan Lazard's on IR. They won. Like, they're kind of back in the mix of things. I don't know. To me, if I'm taking a guess, it's Adam Thielen, but I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, I don't really think anything major is going to happen. And I don't think it's because the Steelers have like screwed this process up in trying to trade for a receiver. It's hard. Like these moves aren't out there made. I do think DeAndre Hopkins is someone they probably should have been after at the price that he was traded for. But that's probably the only receiver move since the early part of the summer that you can really point to and say, yeah, they should have done that. Like the trades just haven't been there for them to make. That's why you don't get into this situation in the first place. But I don't think that's some sort of like incredible indictment on Omar Khan either. Like this team had a lot of holes. He filled most of them. It didn't get to them all. I said all offseason that I felt like there were too many for them to fill in one offseason. And I appear to have been correct in that assessment. And, hindsight being 2020, there were plenty of moves that they could have made earlier and didn't. But they misread the wide receiver market, and now they're going to pay the price for it.
As somebody in your profession, I would think like the opinion that you hold in terms of feeling like they're going to do something, is that more based off what you hear or just how you feel about the room? Because I'm curious as to if you feel like, I don't think it should be this way necessarily, especially like in the case of Van, where it's like a 1-game sample size. But I was curious if you thought like that Monday night game could have changed the way they felt about the room.
I haven't gotten the sense that anything's changed about the way they feel about the receivers, which in general has been sort of higher than the public consensus is, but still acknowledging that there's like lots of room for improvement there. And so, I don't really think a lot has changed. They've been weirdly picky about the wide receiver position this offseason. I don't really understand. I think there were, like I said, a half a dozen to a dozen moves that they could have made at some point since trading Deontay Johnson that would have made this a non-issue. And I don't really understand why they haven't. But no, I don't think 2 games has really changed anything about the way they feel about the players in that room. And, I think it was clearly a miss by the front office, but I don't think it's, people tweeting about Omar Khan. I'm like, God, look at what the guy's done in 2 years. I mean, the fact that they are, in theory, one player away from being, a fairly solid roster is a credit to him and not an indictment of him for leaving the one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I saw somebody, and this might be what brought that thought to your head in terms of Omar. Saw somebody put out there today like he's just another Kevin Colbert or something if he doesn't land a receiver.
By the way, Kevin Colbert won 2 Super Bowls and went to a third. If Omar is just another Kevin Colbert, that's like a top 10% outcome. I understand the point of the tweet was to compare him to what Kevin Colbert had been at the end, but like, come on, people.
Yeah,
let's keep our heads.
Yeah, now that you say it, hey, if we can get a couple Super Bowls out of this regime.
If Omar wins 2 Super Bowls and goes to another as general manager, like, what are we doing here? Yes.
Where do I sign?
Sign up for that.
Somebody in the YouTube comments mentioned, the state of the wide receiver room and said, as we've kind of started to see Jaylen Warren get healthier, could that be a solution for that? Like playing him and Najee Harris at the same time, doing more with Jaylen as a passer. And for Russ, it makes sense, right? Because if you look at the past couple of years, especially with how many of his throws have come at or behind the line of scrimmage and haven't come in the middle of the field, like, is that the path forward?
Smitty, I know that you don't need me to tell you how much I want to play them both at the same time. I don't know why this has been so hard for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They were two of their 5 best eligibles last year, and then you took away Deontay Johnson. So, yeah,
play them both at the same time. Yes. I don't care what position you call them or where you put them. Play them both at the same time. Yes, absolutely yes.
Well, I guess okay. So could you marry those two ideas though? Would that in your mind make it less of a need for a receiver?
No, but it's still a good idea. Because it still doesn't help you if George Pickens gets hurt.
Yeah, true.
Okay. Is there anything that Scotty Miller is better at than Jaylen Warren? And I like Scotty Miller as a player. I understand why he's out there. Is there anything that you think, oh, well, you can't use Jaylen for this, you got to go to Scotty Miller? No, not in my opinion.
Offense?
Yeah, on offense. Yeah.
Say, have we seen Jaylen ever punt gun? But I don't know.
I bet he could do it just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not a dig at Scotty Miller. I just think Jaylen Warren is a lot better football player. I do.
I mean, I can get on board with this for sure, but I'm not so sure. Part of this comment was easing the need for a receiver.
No, it doesn't.
So,
really
while I deal with the notion,
here's what it does. It doesn't ease the need. It just mitigates the impact of not having one. Okay. It's hey, I broke my toe. I'm now wearing crutches. Crutches aren't good. You still need to fix your toe. Okay. You can't just have crutches forever, but it's better than just limping also.
Yeah. Somebody also, I think this is an interesting thought, is somebody mentioned, trading for a wide receiver on an expiring deal and the way that it would impact the comp pick formula.
Oh, if you don't intend to sign them, it's helpful. If you do intend to re-sign them, it's irrelevant. So,
yeah.
We talked
so, in the case of Darius Slayton or
Friday, we just talked a good bit about that on the morning show. So anyone that they trade for that is an expiring contract, you probably have to pay a little bit more because the other team is going to be getting a comp pick for them, or at least getting a comp pick pool slot out of that player. And the Steelers would then be getting that if they don't sign the contract extension. So that's definitely a part of the math. It's why
that's why
Darius Slayton may not be available.
Yeah, well, I guess that's also why some people were so, confused by the return for a Deontay Johnson being what it was, with what Carolina could have gotten in the comp pick formula for walking.
Yeah, you have that. Certainly, I think that was more about making the player happy than anything else.
Yeah. Sure. There were some other names this person threw out there, as example, like DeAndre Hopkins or whatever, somebody that could have walked in free agency.
And one that I think if you want to point to is fair that the Steelers should have been in on him.
Yeah, no, I agree. When you said that, I was going through in my head since, free agency, the second tier, probably everything that's happened since then. Is there a move that I could say for that price, what was given up? Should the Steelers have been in on, in my opinion? I think the only one that I keep coming back to is DeAndre Hopkins.
There were earlier ones. I could say they should have been on Stephon Diggs, although that's not working out very well for Dallas right now. They should have been in on Jerry Jeudy, even though Cleveland's barely using him and they way overpaid on his contract extension. But those trades would have been good for the Steelers too. They just didn't get talked about as much because they happened way earlier. Yeah,
absolutely. Somebody else mentioned, just because we've talked so much about receiver, somebody else said, and we touched on this already, but are we not talking enough about any other position potentially? Is it just wide receiver for you, or is there another spot where they could make a move?
I might trade for 2 wide receivers before I thought about trading for anything else.
Yeah, someone mentioned offensive line. This was obviously after Dylan Cook was waived, and I don't know how many teams are trading a tackle of any quality.
No one's trading a tackle worth anything.
Yeah. Or some defensive line depth, and that one was interesting.
Yeah, and backup nose tackle, if they could up, Braden Fajoko's on the practice squad, but they don't really have another backup nose tackle right now. That's an idea. I honestly have no idea who would be out there for that role. There are generally old guys that are been, been around forever that are on expiring deals, you can make that happen. That's not crazy. Those trades usually cost almost nothing though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Do we know anything about what's going on with Monty?
Just that he is expected to return at some point, not season end.
So probably have more clarity. Is tomorrow a normal time on Tuesday?
Tomorrow's a normal time on Tuesday.
Normal time on Tuesday. So we obviously look forward to that. Alan, is there anything else on your mind?
Yeah, we promised the people predictions.
Oh yeah, you're right. We put it off. Yeah, we already put it off one episode.
We must make good with our updated Steelers predictions.
You know what though? Like we're still gonna do that, but I'll be honest. Like I feel like there hasn't been as much participation in the comments. Like people are commenting, but they're commenting other things. Like they're not answering the question that we want.
I know.
It's the same thing as like when we asked for Steelers afternoon rides, right? Like people will give us pretty much everything but.
I know. Part of that I blame YouTube because you can't upload in your comment. It makes it clunky. You got to come to Twitter.
At first, I thought you said you blame me too, and I was like, I mean, yeah, I'll shoulder some.
I blame you. Yeah, absolutely. Your fault. I'm not taking any blame for this.
But okay, so basically, what this is has our minds changed from preseason predictions to now, based off what this team has done up until the bye week. What was your? I don't remember what your preseason was. It 9-8.
9-8 was my preseason prediction, and
okay, now 10-7.
Here right now, I had them at 4-3, or 5-3. Sorry, 5-3, 5-3 at the break, and finishing 9-8.
So they're only one game ahead of schedule for you right now. So by season's end, does that mean you adjust that one game? Do you believe they're going to be 10-7, or have they exceeded even that in your mind?
No, I think that's right where I'm going. That I think yes, I will increase my preseason prediction by one game. I'll now say I think they're 10-7 at the end of it. And I think that's going to be good enough to win the AFC North.
Oh. Okay. That's interesting. I
like it. Baltimore Ravens have not really impressed me. Like, I know that they've got some good wins, but they've also got some bad losses.
Yeah, I mean, just a week before they trounced the Broncos, they lost to Cleveland, right? So, I mean, and look what Cleveland looks like a week later.
Raiders at home. Like, yeah. I don't have a lot of faith in that team going on this like long sustained run. I think the Bengals are gonna get hot and win some of these games in the division. I think they're going to be a tough team for the Steelers. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, so they play Thursday night. That's going to be interesting. Ravens and Bengals Thursday night this week.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. There might be 100,000 points stored in that football game.
Could be.
I'm curious to see what the over-under is. Can I? You might not want to answer this, and if so, that's fine because we can talk about it later. But I'm curious: has your mind changed in terms of what they could do in the postseason?
So I was already pretty positive about their chances of being able to win a playoff game. I thought the changes to the team set them up that even if they had a struggle with the regular season, that they would be in a better position to go into a place like Buffalo or Kansas City and come away with a win. And now that I think there's a decent chance they could get a home game, I'm even more convinced that I think this team is going to win a playoff game. I thought they had an okay chance before. I really like their chances right now. If they could win the North, get a home game, going to end up playing, somebody good but not like unbeatable in the first round. And I think that at home would set them up very, very nicely.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if it's the case, like right now, right, they host the Chargers in the first round of play. Round of play.
Like I don't expect that to hold, but
yeah,
but that's how Steelers win. Like absolutely. Get the Chargers and the Broncos out of the play for crying out loud. Like, how are they the?
Hey, speaks to the state of the AFC so far.
But to your point, I think Cincinnati's gonna replace one of them, but I don't even know who the other team would be. Like, are the Colts gonna catch fire? They bench their quarterback. Like the Jets. Right. I don't know. Like the teams that we thought were going to be the bubble teams in the AFC, teams like the Dolphins and the Jaguars, being so bad and the Browns being so bad has kind of turned the whole thing on its ear. I don't really know what to expect from the bottom of the AFC, but I do know that I feel good about the Steelers if they get a home game.
Okay. So your preseason to right now prediction has increased the Steelers win total by 1 game, which gets them to where my preseason prediction was at 10-7. I'm flying high right now, Alan.
All right.
I think this team wins 12 games. And I think that speaks largely.
Is that more about the Steelers or the fact that the Bengals and the Browns have been awful?
Yeah, both. But I just think that they are more built now offensively to be able to compete with some of these teams on the back end more so. Going into, I don't want to consider any game a guaranteed loss, but man, those games 3 in a row against the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs look daunting, and they still, that's going to be a tough stretch for them. But I don't think
on a short week after Baltimore looks like that's the underrated hardest game on the schedule. I think just because at Cleveland is a struggle no matter what. The week after Baltimore is a struggle no matter what, and now it's on a short week with. I mean, the shortest travel possible, but still with travel. I can't get away from some of these games being losses just because of the way the schedule piles up.
I wish that Deshaun Watson didn't get hurt. No, but
if I put these games in different order, I think I could get with 12 wins. I look at that game and I'm like, that's a loss. I cannot not predict that to be a loss. I'm not going to predict at Philly to be anything other than a loss. They haven't won there since 1960, and Philly's really good. At a short week at Baltimore, that's Kansas City. Every team with Kansas City on their schedule thinks it's a loss right now. I don't know. I have a hard time. Getting past all those.
This game against Washington coming up will probably honestly be a big determining factor in terms of where this goes. But I guess to me, I've just seen what they've done in the last few weeks, each of the last 2 years. And granted, that just almost seems like, man, it's Mike Tomlin pulling them there because they have to be there to get in the discussion to make the playoffs. Like last year, they didn't have they had to win those games at the end of the year, but they got hot and were able to do it. So I just kind of feel like they're going to win some games that they probably shouldn't on the back end of this thing. And all of a sudden be at 12 wins, win the division. Like you, I think they win at least one playoff game and they'll compete in the second one, the divisional round.
Yeah, that's the other thing is if you get that to that spot where you're hosting, let's say they're the 3 seed or the 4 seed in the AFC, you're not guarantee all you need is just hey, a good matchup here or a bad matchup for somebody else there, and you can get pretty far. And so let
me ask you this. So say that, say KC and Buffalo are the top 2 or whatever. Do you think it's better for them to have to go to KC or to Buffalo?
Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that I like their familiarity with Buffalo. I thought they had a real chance to win that game last year, and they'd let it slip away. I think, and they didn't have TJ. I think Buffalo.
Okay. I was curious as to how you felt because again, you kind of get into matchups more than anything else.
Nobody should feel good about playing Patrick Mahomes for the next years.
I agree. Yeah, no matter how pedestrian that he has looked at this point in the year, despite them being 7-0. You just know once you get to that point in the calendar, what's going to happen. So I agree. But we'll see. All right. Good stuff. Alan, anything else before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm glad that you remembered that because I did not. So we finally got our predictions out there for the people. Keep yours coming as well in the comments. Alan, until next time, tell people to find you.
At @Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, and TikTok. PGH Steelers Now. SteelersNow.com. Go there, read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for Steelers Now Plus with promo code Allen10 and get an ad-free viewing experience. It's sublime.
It's huge.
And then subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of Afternoon Drive, Morning Rush, Sights and Sounds, locker room interviews, post-game, all the good stuff. Check it out.
There you go. Also hit us in the comments, like I said, whether it's with your prediction, where this team's going to finish, where you thought
you hate our predictions, or how much you hate us, or you love us, whatever you got.
I got them at 12-5 and winning at least one playoff game, and I was very specific with that. At least, I want to leave that margin. So people should be feeling good about where I'm at, and you got them winning a playoff game too. So ultimately, it means the same thing. But anyways, yes, hit us with those. Let us know about your thoughts on anything else that we talked about. Leave us a 5-star review and subscribe if you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from. Search Steelers Afternoon Drive. You'll find us there. Same place you'll find us on TikTok, Steelers Afternoon Drive. And then you'll find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders, and myself. Thanks for jumping in and taking another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.